Hey, everybody. I hope this video or live stream finds you doing well. I understand that I started quite a controversy about writing a note to Christians not to convert me. So, we're going to go ahead and go with the reasoning of my thoughts behind the note. What have I been through? How have I been studying history? How does that go with the fact that I am in Judaism now? So, let's get one huge topic out of the way. Okay. Here's what I think of blind faith. I believe it's for the special naive that'll just go around looking like this and I'll just trust Jesus. Let me explain something to you. I'm not, by any circumstance, in no way am I even close to being that naive. I don't blindly trust no one, not even me. So now that we got that out of the way, we need to take a look at history. Because let me tell you something. If history and the Bible or history and religion don't match up, someone's lying. There is a huge liar in the room because you're not going to tell me, oh, yeah, history can be true and so religion. Yeah, I'm not that unintelligent, if you will. And so I don't believe in that kind of ridiculous theory. My history better match up with my religion, because if it don't, I'm going to have a huge discussion with someone about something. So I want to do something. I'll be right back. First of all, I want to explain to everybody. I know I've said this once. I'm going to say it again. I was raised in a fundamental Baptist home. And let me tell you about those preachers. It was the King James Version, only the King James Version, and hell be damned. Listen, let me explain to everybody something, because nobody's going to like this. The Christian faith of our founding fathers did not, does not, will never look like this modern day Christianity that's going on in today's society. Let me explain something to you guys. Benjamin Franklin is a lot like me, a womanizer, promiscuous. But when it came to his faith in Christ, he was willing to stand up and beat on that drum all day long and talk about how the Bible was absolutely correct. He stood up for his faith, which was absolutely, in his time, the Christian faith, which looks like nothing in today's society. Not the Pentecostals, not the Charismatics, not the Fundamental Baptists, not the Southern Baptists. No, there's only two religions that maybe look the same. Well, one does. The other, yeah, I'll give the benefit of doubts. Catholicism and Lutheran. As far as for the others, not so much. And let me tell you something, what all these denominations have done. It looks like to them, pick your poison. We're all going to heaven. I don't think so. Let me tell you, so now let's go back to the Fundamental Baptist beating on that Gene King's Version Bible, and that was the only Bible, and the hell be damned. Our founding fathers, and I'm going to try and get this up close, went by the 1599 Geneva Bible. I have here lately ordered me a copy, and this is the Patriots edition. And I am sorry that if you can't see that too well, I will post a picture of it after I get done with this live stream. It is the 1599 Geneva Bible. Let me tell you something. Our founding fathers When they first founded this country, they wanted nothing to do with King James. They wanted nothing to do with England. And they thought of the King James Bible as nothing more than just a farce at best. They had nothing good to say about it. And yet they're embedded in trust. And the Son of God and our Heavenly Father was very much rooted. Now, what they believed wasn't perfect. It wasn't, not even by stretch of the imagination. But they did have their Christian faith and they did live by it. And oh yeah, let me explain something to you. If you don't think that the founding fathers, they didn't know that Benjamin Franklin was a womanizer. Oh yeah, they did. They just had enough respect for him and for themselves to keep their big mouth shut. Okay? And oh yeah, let's talk about Thomas Jefferson having children by a young black woman. Yeah, as long as he didn't rape her, back in those days, who cared? No one cared. Now, if it had been rape, there'd probably been, might be discussing a little something, but it wasn't rape. So, we can get off the King James Version stuff, because believe me, their history, totally wrong. Absolutely, totally messed up. Now, let's talk about the name of Jesus Christ. Here's what happened. Back in the days of Rome, that's where the Catholic Church comes from, is from the nation of Rome. These people were power hungry, money hungry savages. And that's all that they were. Emperor Constantine said, Jesus said that St. Peter, I'll build my church upon this rock. Well, that must make him equal with God. And then he brought in a faith that made him that appeared, they brought in a faith, if you want to call it that said, hey, Emperor Constantine is equal with God. And then every pope since then has thought of himself as being equal with God. And here's the thing. The Roman Empire was finally divided into two. It was divided into the Eastern and to the Western. The Western part of Rome converted the Bible over to Latin. From my understanding, it became interpreted Lesus. Okay? My understanding was Lesus, something like that, if I'm correct. If anybody wants to clarify that, you're more than welcome to do so. The Eastern religion kept the Greek. Well, listen, in the rules of translating, names should never be translated. Not the person's name, not the name of the city, not the name of the country. Nothing is to be interpreted like that. The words like would, should, could, okay, we'll allow for interpretation of that. We got to remember one thing. Jesus Christ was, is, and forever will be Jewish. And I don't care what any Christian denomination says. He was, he is, and he forever will be Jewish. And if you want to unlock the secrets of the book of Revelation, you're going to go back to Judaism. But believe me, when I tell you this, I have unlocked the secrets from other rabbis to interpret the book of Revelation, the book of Daniel. I've looked at the feasts and how they pertain to his second coming. When anyone has studied when anybody has studied the end times, as I have, there is not going to be one human being that actually has a heart of flesh a soft heart. There's going to be no soft-hearted person just going to walk away from that study and going to be the same. They're not. The mere mention of the book will bring tears to them because they know what they're talking about. I know what I'm talking about. And to think about all I have studied and what's going to be. People talk about the end time like it's the greatest thing that ever was, is, or ever will be. The after effect, yeah, the Sukkot, or what Christians call the marriage feast of the Lamb, yeah, that'll be great. Anything before that, we will be in tears. It will bring, I don't care how righteous you are, when we see everything going down, let me tell you something. We, even the most righteous, and I don't care if we're talking about Paul or we're talking about Moses, I'm telling you, the most righteous will stand there and cry. In fact, if the real truth be known, all of creation will be in tears. So, the name of Christ was translated from Yeshua to Jesus to now, in English, Jesus. That was wrong of the interpreters to do it. They did it anyhow. I think these were great men of God. I think they were misguided, but I think that they were great men of God and they were good Christians. They were being the best people they know how to be. At the same token, when I look at my people, the Jewish people, when they denied and said, we want nothing to do with this Christian Jesus, I simply stand here and I'll never believe that they're going to go to the lake of fire because they didn't believe in the Christian Jesus, because that's not what they were learning. A little history. A lot of Jewish people did not and will not accept Christ as being the Messiah because the Messiah told them, do as Rome wants you to do. And they turned on him. With very little understanding that they were talking to the Son of God, whom they have been talking to, whom we have been talking to all along. Not from Matthew 1, but from Genesis 1:1. Let me explain that. There's three words. First three words in the Hebrew language is Bereshit. They gave it the meaning of in the beginning. Not totally false, not totally correct. It's better interpreted in a beginning because there's many beginnings in Judaism. Bara, to create, to bring forth, from literally nothing. Elohim. That would involve this. The instructions came to the from the, let me rephrase this. The directions came from the Father, given to pre-incarnate Christ and to the Holy Spirit, and God told them what to do, and they fulfilled it perfectly, very perfectly. So, when the people misinterpreted God, they didn't understand what they were doing. They should have left alone as Elohim. And Judaism explains Elohim as I have just done for you. Moses talked to pre-incarnate Christ because nothing, no one can stand that is not in the perfect will of God can stand before him and live. It will never happen. This is why that the one who opposes God will be going into the lake of fire. because he knew God, he contradicted God, and God threw him out. To the last straw on that camel's back is when he tempted Eve. That sealed the one who opposes God's fate. So when you look at the history, his original name was Yeshua. Then it became Jesus. Then it was translated in English as Jesus. Then translated in Spanish to Jesus Cristo. This was very, very wrong. Now, my father was absolutely every bit of a Christian. Did he worship Jesus? Yeah, I would say fundamentally yes, that is very true. Do I believe that my father is going to go to the lake of fire? No, I don't believe that. And here's the reason why. Constantine did this to people. Now, I'm not going to judge if he's in heaven or hell, but I can tell you one thing. He certainly as hell was not being the best person he knew how to be. He was just full of himself, and that settles it. So, and let me tell you something. If God can speak through someone like me, if God can show me wisdom and knowledge, even to a point that it almost blows my mind. I mean, it's at an astonishing point, and I no one wants to really understand that, and I wouldn't wish this upon my worst enemy, but the fact of the matter is if God can use someone as promiscuous as I am and show me the knowledge that he has shown me, and it every bit has been through Judaism. I have never known knowledge like this in my entire life. If I can study the Hebrew language and it bring up my IQ level, I know a lot of points, more than I don't even want to know. If he can bring me to knowledges and understandings on levels that just blow my mind away, don't tell me that he can't let people into heaven who worship the Son. He loves his Son, there is no doubt. However, because of the history I have studied, and let me tell you, if your history and your religion does not match up, one of them is a liar. And let me tell you something, we've entered into the day that, well, my preacher said, or my rabbi said. Yeah, you may want to re-examine what you're believing. Because you see, I don't trust no one. I don't even really trust me. There are times where I absolutely don't trust me, and I go back and I re-examine everything again. So if you expect me to just believe a rabbi because, well, he's a rabbi, or, well, just believe a preacher because he's a preacher, keep dreaming. I trust no one. So I've studied all this history. I have sat here and explained. I have no faith. What brought me to the conclusion, and it wasn't just history. No, yeah, let's talk about that history. If you don't think that the Roman Empire messed around with the writings of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John and Acts, if to suit their own needs, yeah, you can believe that all you want. I'm not going to believe that. If I don't see it through the lens of Torah, I don't see it at all. And as far as for those writings, Romans through Jude, those are opinions. And it's a fact. If you look at, I'm not going to sit here and do share screen and all, but in one verse, Peter says that people took the words of Paul and twisted them for their own doing. Well, I hate to tell Peter this, but looking at it through a history lens, they didn't do it just to Paul's teachings. They did it to his as well. And as far as from Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, do I believe all three of them were great, or I'm sorry, all four of them were great disciples? I don't believe it. I know it. I know it beyond the fact. Those were great men of God. What I'm saying is that the Roman Empire messed with those writings and then came off of, this is all true. And I'm not going to be naive enough to believe that. So I'm going to rely on the Old Testament more than anything else. And let me explain this. Nothing, no one is above Torah. The prophets further explain Torah. The prophets are not above and they're not equal with Torah. The prophets explain Torah. And there is prophecy in them, real ones. Now let's jump back to where I'm at. What solidifies all this with me? Excuse me. Do miracles happen in Christians' lives? Yes, they do. They absolutely do. I had miracles that happened to me when I was a Christian. Let me explain something. I was living in Charlotte, North Carolina. It was probably around summertime. I took a curve too fast and a trailer went like this. I slowed down and went back down. Driver was on the CB. Man, I've never seen a trailer, a trailer lean that far into almost tipping over and then go back. So as a Christian, yeah, that was a miracle that happened with me. There's been other times that God has saved my skin as a Christian. There's no denying that. That is absolute truth. But let me tell you guys something. On December 5th was my last day of driving a truck because of completely torn posterior cruciate ligament in my left knee. I still to this day walk with a cane or I walk with a staff. If I'm going to something that's a little bit formal, even if it's like casual dress, not necessarily the suit and tie, but just casual dress, I will bring in my cane. If it's something that's not really formal and it's just a daily event, I'm wearing a t-shirt, I will use the staff, and on it, it's a wolf's head. I don't know why it happened, but ever since, I guess, December of 2011, 2012, something like that, every time I see something that has wolf on it, I just literally lose my mind. I don't have any more figurines in my home of wolves. I am getting a ring with a wolf carved in it, but it had to be pasted to the ring. And of course, the wolf head on the staff. But I have been walking in a miracle ever since, I would comfortably say, right after my birthday, my 50th birthday, I would comfortably say about June 20th, 2021. And I've been walking in a miracle ever since. Let me explain some of these miracles. My Crohn's disease would last 24 hours, and the flare up, let me rephrase that. the Crohn's disease flare up, the blockage that would happen in my intestine, would happen for a solid 24 hours. I started eating purely kosher, and everything was explained to me about don't eat marshmallows because it has gelatin. Gelatin's made from the pork, from the pig. It's like, okay, so I started following these rules pretty closely. Went down from 18 to 16, started doing some vitamins. Vitamins helped. It brought it down to about 12 to 14 hours for a flare up. My brother, whom we believe also has Crohn's, I don't know that. I'm not going to say he's lying or telling the truth. He says, yeah, I have Crohn's. Cool. He has introduced me to vitamins that he has strongly suggested that I take. I'm not going to endorse nothing unless it works for me. However, I can tell you that the Crohn's disease, to some point, the pain's gotten sharper, but not nearly as long. So it does appear to be healing. Um, that was the first miracle. To understand the next set of miracles, you've got to know that I was in a drunk driving accident. We damaged the knee. Already had lower back issues. It exacerbated the lower back. Never had any neck issues till after this accident. I have two bulging discs, and it does affect my hand, my right hand, right in this area. In fact, so much that Ahava got me really good once, and I didn't even know it till it was too late. She cut deep. Also, right shoulder, and I'm going to try and hold this close. If I was to try and throw a football, it'll never happen, folks. My arm doesn't go any more than this, and I'm stretching it at that. So if you're ever thinking I'm going to throw a baseball or football with this hand, it will never happen. My rotator cuff, the tendons were tied. They did the physical therapy. They tried to stretch the ligament, but every time they try and stretch the ligament, it would come close to flaring up the Crohn's disease. So eventually they got sick of it and said, start working out, doing like powerlifting and all. I was doing it. I got to get back to it. I felt a lot better when I was doing it, so I got to really get back to it. The weather is starting to break enough so that I should be able to go ahead and start resuming that. It could get hot in this apartment. Believe me, really hot. And I haven't been able to take it either. So there's like 3 to 5 steel staples in my shoulder. Every time I get an MRI done or an X-ray, I've got to tell them about it. But anyhow, I have gone through a whole lot of pain. And I mean through more pain in my right shoulder, my knee, my lower back, and my neck than anybody wants to understand or know. And every time that the weather changes, it's a huge issue for me. I mean, it is absolutely just ridiculous how bad that I can hurt. And I mean hurt real bad. So I will be honest with you. The doctor recommended it 2, but I take 3 Advils and 3 ibuprofens. I take 3 of each to kill the pain. Actually, truth be known, I'm masking it. I remember when I was doing squats, just right above the knees on both legs, left and right. Give me a sec. Was hurting. And I mean really hurting because I was doing the squats. There were several young ladies. When they see me walking, they asked if I was going to be okay, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll be fine." During Torah service, you get behind Torah and you do a figure eight, the sign of infinity. And I would do like everybody else, put my tzitzit up on the covering of the Torah, kiss the tzitzit, and then walk behind it. During that time, I would literally feel, there's times I would feel some pain, and then there was a lot of other times I literally felt no pain. I'll never forget, I was going through the bar mitzvah class, and Rabbi Michael was teaching us all how to carry Torah and how the procession goes, and he was a great teacher. Called me up, and I told him, I says, I can't. I'm just hurting too bad. Man, story never gets easier to tell. With the direction of God, Rabbi Bill put his whole entire hand on all three sections that I was cut in two. My shoulder was cut here, I was cut here, and I was cut in the back. He got his hand on all three scars. He didn't get up and jump up and down and do anything stupid. He did not do that. He just simply said a little prayer, asking God to heal me. God did not heal me. But I can guarantee you one thing: God absolutely took away the pain. 3 minutes later, I'm telling Rabbi Michael, put me back in. So I was able to do half the class because our time was up, and I was going to have to do it again the following week. So I'm like, cool. Rabbi Bill was there. Rabbi Bill was not there. And I thought, God, I'm hurting again, and Rabbi Bill isn't here. And that's just when I could hear the voice in my head saying, you think I need Rabbi Bill? Like, okay, I mean, that's cool. And I'll never forget, I was hurting that Shabbat. I was the first one up again. Little no pain during the teaching. Absolutely amazing. Then I was on then I was praying, hey God, what did you do? Just create me, have fun of throwing me in hell? Both times I prayed that prayer, I would surely get a miracle. First miracle was that there was only one whole milk that I needed, and the lady gave it to me. That was one of the miracles. The other was there was a guy ran past me to get a good buggy, and I thought, well, good for him. I'll just take one of the other ones. I would have never said one word to the man about it. But he turned around and he gave me that cart. And I'll tell you what, folks, no one, literally no one, not for any reason, has ever given me anything like that. No one has never showed me that much respect in my entire life. So it became clear that God was kind of beating me up with a frying pan, so to speak. This is all figuratively speaking, of course. And so it has come times where I'm saying, okay, God, where are you in all this? What's going on? Are you just out to destroy me? And God does show up. He really does. So I don't believe everything I believe just on good old blind faith. I believe it because I'm walking the miracles. I'm studying the history. And let me tell you something. Just like a jigsaw puzzle, everything is coming together. Everything is coming together. Now, sometimes it leaves me with more questions than answers, but it doesn't take it away from that jigsaw puzzle coming together. We are now, there was a pastor that stood up and said, every post-Christian nation could never return to Christianity. That is, he was perfectly correct. However, every post-Israeli, post-Judaism nation of Israel has always returned back to God, has always returned back to Judaism. We have a saving grace in America, believe it or not, and it is Messianic Judaism. Even though I'd stay away from the term Messianic Judaism, because it does have a reputation of being half Christian, half Jew, there's nothing Christian about my theology. Now, this doesn't mean that I don't look to the Son of God for salvation. He is the only way to the Father. And that's been true ever since Genesis 1, not Matthew 1. But I know the relationship. I know who I am. Supposed to worship. I know who I am. And I will tell you, if God can be merciful to me, don't ever think that God isn't merciful to other people when they generally believe something, even if it may be not the complete truth. I know he can, and I know he does. And there is also one thing I want to point out about, I know I've talked about this before, but I'm going to say it again. And there is one other little history I want to talk to you about. This was actually prophesied, that the parents of Jesus changing from Jew to Christian was actually foretold in Torah. He is, Christ was and is the second Joseph. I'm not going into great details except to explain that Joseph, of course, was Jewish. By the time that his brothers got to see him again, he looked like, he acted like, he dressed like, even talked like an Egyptian. He was indeed second in command, as is Yeshua, or Christ, is to God. He is a second Joseph. Yes, his parents changed to look Christian. But I don't believe that that's going to be held against the Jewish people, my people, because they didn't accept the Christian Jesus. They cannot. And I understand why. They cannot, never will accept the Christian Jesus. So do I think that God will have mercy on them? If God can use someone such as myself, as promiscuous as I am, don't tell me that the Jewish people who did not accept the Christian Jesus isn't going to be shown mercy. I, in fact, believe that they will. So I'm going to reiterate this. Now that I've explained to you guys all further, I know when I die, I'll go to heaven. I believe that Christ, or as I know him as the person in the past, Yeshua, as being the Messiah, as being my Savior, he is God's salvation given to me. There's no doubt. And to go on one little thing, if in theology and in universities all across America, they call Jesus Christ the second Moses. If I am going to even begin believing that Christ is the second Moses, then I'm expecting that he's going to be equally as humble as Moses. Moses didn't get up and say, "Oh boy, big old me." And I would never expect that out of the second Moses. So I've explained things well. I've kind of went backwards and forwards, but I've explained everything to you, my perspective in writing the note to the Christians. I have found the truth, and I found the golden key. That's why I keep doing these videos and reels. Not because I want to control you. What you do with the information I've given you, that's between you and God, and it's none of my business. But I keep doing this to show everybody the golden key that I found. And it's one very golden key. Christ said, "My burden is light." I don't call Torah burden, but he is right. You got over 1 million laws in the United States that you have to listen to. And you're going to tell me that 613 rules are going to devastate you? Give me a break. I love you all. God bless.